End of term.
Oh.
Are we?
So crazy.
Are we
Too tired for that.
Check the what
We're
off.
live, folks.
I've done it.
So we're live on video.
And we're live on sound.
Okay. So welcome everybody to tonight's resources. This is the last resources of this council. I'd like to thank everybody around the table and the members that have come that are missing tonight for their hard work. So thank you. And to our staff as well.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you all the office staff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you record that in the minutes, please?
Okay, so apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Ashley Hogan and Councillor Stutchbury.
Thank you very much. We don't have any members of the public here, do we?
No, I think it's going missing.
Any declarations of interest? No? No. Okay. Minutes of the last meeting, the 3rd of March. Already been circulated. We're happy to agree those.
Agreed.
Green.
Thank you. Minutes of the communication strategy group. On the 6th of March. Thank you. On to budgets, item 5. So we've got our 5.1 detailed income and expenditure budget, appendix A. So I'm going to go by the number in the top left-hand corner, and so we're on 562.
I've got 4 of 62 as a person.
Yeah, I've got 4 of 60.
Yeah.
Like ones.
Anybody got 5? Okay.
Where'd you get yours from?
From the email. The link on the email.
So number 4 is all one headed resources.
You've still got it. That's the You said the last one, can't you?
What did you do, Lisa?
Oh, yes, okay.
Look at
Right.
it last month.
462.
And now for something completely different.
Anything on there? No. Okay, now we're on to 5. Anything on there? 6. 7. Steve is here, if anybody's got any questions, Martin.
Just on the shop mobility, does that mean they don't have a budget as such? Have they got to just pay for things as they go?
For income, expenditure wise, there is a budget, but it was an unexpected item that took it over budget.
All right, okay.
Yeah,
Should they not look maybe a little bit extra, or was it completely out of the blue?
well, it was something.
Not that it matters, but I want them to run a nice, smooth operation over there.
We have more generally been sufficient funds. This was an accident with one of the scooters that was unfortunately with the additional repairs to
No, that's fine.
what was expected.
Thank you very much.
I mean, that's what probably got insurance, though, aren't they? Scooters.
Well, yes, but it depends how much it is as to whether it's an excess or not, so.
Yeah. Fair. Sorry, Fran?
I was just going to say that while it looks percentage wise like it's a quite significant, but in monetary terms it's not actually that much, is it?
Yeah. Thank you. Right, page 8. Nine. Ten.
Fran, can I just go back to 9, sorry, quickly, and say thank you to whoever it was that got the grants for the tree planting.
Yeah, thank you.
It's very important.
I believe that was the Nina, but I'll have to check.
Probably good. Thanks to Nina. Please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Page 10. 11. 12. And then we're on to appendix B. A purchase ledger, page 13.
Sorry, well, did you miss out on 12 then?
No,
No, I did 12.
Oh, did you?
Sorry,
Well, that's earmarked reserves. Should we go on to another?
I did 12.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to go back over that? Yeah.
Yeah, just a thought. I was looking at the machinery replacement, i.e. 354 and 355. You know, the machinery replacement's a lot higher than a building's replace and repair. And I thought, okay, you know, I'll run with it, but
Yeah, some of that has been used for some repairs, so therefore it's depleted somewhat.
oh, I see. So this is the remaining sum,
Yes.
not right. Okay.
But all the reserves will be under review imminently anyway to.
Right, okay, thank you very much.
Expenditure, make some new ones.
Okay, so that's purchase ledger, page 13. Page 14.
Yes, we seem to be paying Hampshire County Council on a fairly regular basis for legal advice. I thought we had health and safety advisors anyway, so I just wonder what the extra legal advice was.
That isn't health and safety, is it? Hampshire Council, that's something else.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember,
No,
but I can investigate and come
Yeah,
back to
just
you.
the legal advice, Hampshire County Council.
So I took my tongue, Fran, do you?
I think that Hampshire is for
Road.
hmm?
The road.
No, Hampshire County Council legal advice is on HR stuff, I believe.
Well, I thought we paid
We
contractors.
do that with working, I'll have to check, I apologise, I can't remember specifically what that one is.
Yeah, it is.
And there was other stuff as well, wasn't there? Because there was stuff to do with went on in confidential matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which we had legal
Yeah.
advice over,
yeah, that's,
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's better not to
Yeah.
mention
Yeah,
here
yeah,
what that was
absolutely.
for.
especially.
Perhaps have a breakdown of all the Hampshire County Council charges on legal advice for this year. Because it'll all be under one ledger.
Today, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah, nice that.
I've asked the clerk what it was.
yeah.
And you'd like a breakdown of what has been paid to Hampshire Council. The members happy to agree that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can we have a hands up vote for that one, please? That is unanimous, thank you. Okay, page 15. Sixteen. There's none. Now we're on to, I've got to scroll back up. So 5.3 correction to Lotus Hill Community Centre rates budget line. And I've had a report from Steve on that. Would members like to ask Steve any questions on that one? Or happy to do recommendation? Happy to get a recommendation?
Happy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hands up, vote for that, please. Thank you, it's unanimous again. Thanks, Steve. For doing that.
Can I just check if we propose and second that?
Or
Or
did
did you
it?
just go straight to the vote?
Yeah, just go straight to it. Cal, raise it.
I seconded it then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just for,
You're right,
make sure everything's sweet and clean.
Yeah,
thank you. Okay, item 6, fund transfers has been none. Item 7, so about charges for mayor's charity account. I hope you have read the attached pages.
indeed.
And Yeah, so if we go by the first one, which is page 19 or 62, so the R-178-24, Howard.
Well, obviously they're going to turn into a business account now, they're going to charges. I think, the cash bank is free, restricted services. But we know we don't need full banking facilities on a charity account such as for the mayor's charity. Because we're paying in all the time, we ain't paying out once a year. Perhaps we could look at an alternative. We don't have to be with Lloyds.
No, we don't.
I do know that the finance officer did look at some other accounts with other banks. She has mentioned in the report that whilst there are other banks currently that do give free banking, there's no guarantee that will continue. She's also made reference, I think, to the fact it is convenient having Lloyds there in the banking hub 1 day a week. And you'll see from the report she's researched other things as well. Members might be reminded that whenever we raise some money, the first thing we do with it is pay it into our bank account. And then give it at the end of the year to the charities that have already been nominated by the mayor. Members may be minded to think, well, actually, it's just as easy to have a paying in slip for the charity's bank account, pay it directly to them immediately. They have the advantage of their money immediately, and we can still keep a record and do a presentation check at the end of the year.
It's another way of doing it. Just keep it in reserve because we have other reserve accounts.
I think
account.
yeah, the recommendation to legally we can't have this money collected in our own bank account. It has to be a separate account, which we've discussed at this meeting before. In terms of paying it into the specific charities, that's easy. We just get a paying book from the charities.
No, go on.
No, I mean, that was it really. In terms of, it's just important to have it run an account where people are paying funds to charity, expecting all the money to go to charity, and it's being defeated by the bank charges. Hence the recommendation, which I would support.
Yeah, Mayor?
I mean, there is a certain nice thing about having it all in one go and presenting it. And I think that is the one thing that we would be losing. But from a practical perspective, I wouldn't see any particular problem with it going straight to the charities. And as Steve is pointing out, it would have the advantage for them that they'd have it straight away rather than waiting for it. I mean, it's an unpredictable amount of money anyway. So I would have thought, and then we can still, do a symbolic check at the end of it, and they've already got the money. So I wouldn't have a particular problem with it.
Thank you. I've got John and then Fran.
Yeah, and I just heard what Anya said. If that's the easiest way of doing it, then I mean, we can do the kind of big check.
Yeah.
That's just for show anyway. You don't intend that. So we could do that. The thought this does occur whether it's worth creating a charity. That could be a bit of a hassle, but I appreciate that. But you would create a charity and have trustees drawn from the town council, and then that's still going to occur. I'm very surprised there aren't options around, even like I don't know, most of the savings account or something like that would suffice. But if that's the easiest way of doing it for the time being, then I'm happy to go along with it.
I think we were discussing it with Claire's. There's legalities around it being a charity, so it could go into a normal savings account because of the rules and regulations, and that's probably what has been looked at in the office.
I know the finance officer has looked at a number of options in this obviously it's a recommended conclusion. In terms of forming a charity again, she also looked at that. And you're right, it's quite onerous. particularly when you come to changing signatories, of course, that's always a nightmare. However, it does open up the need then to complete an additional section of the Act at the end of the year, because we would actually be trustees, which currently we're not. It's just a separate account, because of course the charity account is not actually a charity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I hope that makes sense. Good to me.
Jane, yeah.
Okay, just to say,
It's me next, but anyway.
Oh, sorry, Fran.
Sorry.
Sorry, go on, Fran.
So, as Anya was saying, and I think John kind of agreed, the big check thing is, it's a presentation thing, it's not the actual check that you take to the bank. It will mean that there does need to be some more tallying up as you go along as to who's got what, but the charity will get the money already to be able to do what they need to do with it. It feels possibly a little bit like if it is dribs and drabs, maybe it can be paid in once a month or something like that, rather than being on a daily basis after a particular event. But
Yeah, the funds could be held secure in
Yeah.
the immediate term.
Yeah.
And paid in appropriate
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Jane and John.
Nothing else, Jackie, I agree with Fran, you don't make it look some huge administrative burden on staff. From my experience of all these charity accounts, there's no such thing as a free account as far as I can see anymore. CAF charge, not much. And how we get good interest. So for a while, you know, the CAB were thinking maybe we'll move away and thought, no, actually, we're actually getting good interest. So you know, everyone has to make a bit of money out of looking after your bank account. So I honestly, I think it's what we're dealing, the amounts we're dealing with, in fact, we're not a charity per se, you know, first and foremost, I keep it as it is, keep it simple.
Thank you. John?
Just one idea, just occurred to me, is could we not, once the mayor has selected his charities, could the charities not become the equivalent of the grant recipient? So when we pay out grants, could we not also pay out the mayor's charity wages in a similar kind of way? So if we do that to grant recipients, could we not just say, I don't know, de facto, the mayor's chosen charities become grant recipients too? Is that going to cause audit problems?
We still can't hold funds in our bank account because we're collecting them on behalf of a charity. We must pay them into a separate account.
Okay, all right.
Robin?
Yeah. The original account was set up already for myself, and that was to avoid any confusion of monies. The option one is to maintain the current account. And if you go for option two, it all gets more convoluted. It doesn't, unless I've read it wrong, Steve, it doesn't state anything about ownership of the funds and the mayor. So imagine it will change with mayors, mayoresses and whatever. So do we need to consider what the long term before we make a change? Because it has worked really well up to the. I haven't heard any of the past mayors say that it didn't work very well. I'm confused, maybe ill-informed why we are specifically changing them now.
Bank charges.
Just the bank charge.
If the bank would now started charging us, and because it's cash that we pay in, its charges are quite high.
So they're charging for what is a charity account, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, you would say, yeah, I understand, it's just I couldn't, work out why you're complicating that much, but
Yeah, literally for that reason.
thank you for that.
Okay. Fran?
Sorry, I was just going to say the same thing as it's the bank charges, which I think Robin missed the beginning of the item discussion.
Thank you. Okay, so it's a feeling on the table that we go for B.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nods. Okay, so Mayor,
I'm happy to propose that.
thank you very much. Do we have a seconder, Fran? Okay, so all those in favour of B, please raise your hands now. Okay, so no, Robin, did put his hand up, everybody else. Did you have your hand up, John?
Yeah.
You did, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
I vote on it, I wouldn't part of the full discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jodie, for looking into it.
Yes, I will.
House, please, thank you.
That was quite a piece of work, I have to say, so.
Yeah, I just thought to clear about it, yeah. Okay, so we don't need to go, oh, do we still need to go over the current account schedule charges in next year?
That was just for information.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, item 8, quarterly banking reconciliations. Thank you, Steve.
Just to say that thank you to the Vice Chair who was able to come into the office to sign the forms, as I'm sure you'll confirm. Thank you.
Is that regular occurrence?
Thank you very much, Howard. Right, item 9, chamber fees. I've got a report,
Do you want me to comment on this?
if you would like to, thank you.
Really, it's self-explanatory. With the fees for Lace Hill went up recently primarily because of the changes in staffing costs, and so with national insurance was about to go up. And the proposal for this is to do the same with the hire for this room, so that we're consistent.
Thank you. Our members feel about raising the charges.
Yeah.
Generally okay? Okay, Robin?
Just ask a question, through Steve. If an organisation you have to do hire it, are we still the right to vote on it?
I beg your pardon?
If the organisation you're part of hire it from time to time, are we still entitled to vote on it?
Well, members decide whether they have an interest a declaration to make.
Well, I
The
think
money be coming out of your pocket.
not personally, no. But it is a variance to the what it is. It's probably wise to avoid deciding the charges.
Okay. All right, so does somebody want to recommend, John?
Hang on, I'm just trying to pick up what Robin's saying. Are you saying, Robin, that if there are people here who are parts of organisations that hire
Yeah.
this chamber,
Yeah.
then they should not be voting?
Yeah, because you're voting for or
It
against.
could be most of us. In various
I
ways.
thought it was a reasonable question.
No, it's a good challenge, I'm not disputing it.
Yeah.
Before you vote and after, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think it's a reasonable challenge, because otherwise we're voting
Yeah.
with a pecuniary interest.
Correct.
Well, I mean, not a personal one, but maybe an organisational one.
So we're raising the fees, we're talking about raising them here.
Yeah, I mean, on the basis that I'm a trustee of the Alms Houses, and we meet in here for our board meetings, I will declare an interest in abstaining.
Mayor,
I think, as John has pointed out, this could in theory be every single one of us.
yeah,
We could end up in court here. I would suggest that members may wish to take a view on it. Otherwise, we're maybe in court and can't vote for it.
I would have thought, because it is a relatively, I mean, we're not talking a large amount of money and it isn't our own personal interest.
No, it's not.
And since otherwise we can't make a decision, since it potentially applies to every single one of them,
yeah,
I would have felt that we could all collectively decide that we can vote on this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
I agree with Anya. It's not, we're not making a huge, looking to make a huge increase in it. We're looking after the interests of this council within this meeting, not in the interest of any other organisation that we may or may not be a part of.
yeah, and as a trustee of the Alms Houses, I'm not paying for this room. meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, you're nominated on the town council, at least that's it.
Yeah. Robin,
So are we taking it from Steve that he's content that the interests are so minuscule that there's no conflict in us both?
Members of the board must always decide for themselves, but I would say it's appropriate for everybody for this small amount to avoid the risk of being full that members will vote.
Apologise for asking.
Andy,
We must have come to a figure to start with, and we must have in the same position that we are in now. So, you know, it's just
Yeah,
academic.
we must have done this before, you're
yeah,
right.
we've definitely done this before. Yeah. Okay, so does somebody want to propose the recommendation, second it, Mayor,
I'm happy to propose it.
Fran?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Okay, so those in agreement with the recommendation, please show. Lily, or against? Abstentions? Well. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, before we move on.
Yeah.
Just to prevent this discussion happening again, can I suggest or request that the clerk produce a report, because we are allowed to vote, when we vote for the precept, we've all got, well, most of us have an interest because we live within the parish boundary, and we are allowed under the blah, 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 dispensation, blah, 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 blah. I wonder whether we need to just, for things like this, we need to have that sorted too.
Yeah.
The rules on this are clearly laid out in the code of conduct. It's a case of we needed to make a judgment that this meeting with this particular item.
It is a pecuniary interest, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yes, that would involve your personal pecuniary interest. I don't think that is appropriate in this instance.
Yeah.
But the rules are clearly laid out in the code of conduct, so.
You happy with that, John?
If that's the advice of the clerk,
Thank you. Okay. Right, so we are on item 10. So investment strategy policy and annual investment strategy. There's no right. So to receive a report from the town clerk and Steve. So the first one, Steve. You want to take that one away?
I would say big mouth didn't speak on this matter. So every year, you need to review the investment strategy policy. And the clerk has produced an annual investment strategy for the current financial year for members to consider and recommend to full council. There are some nominal changes to the wording of the policies itself, which members can see primarily that the government department has changed. I can't remember if it was the one. I think that was just it. And the strategy itself is very similar to last year's of caution and having it in interest-bearing accounts. There's an addition that we've got the fidelity insurance because our balances have increased.
so the money that we have, this 832,000, etc., is in the public sector deposit fund. How does that invest in a whole variety of different pots and stuff? Do we have any
It's a cash
influence over
deposit.
that? Sorry?
It's a cash deposit.
It's a cash deposit, okay, so it's not, well, I mean, the reason I'm trying to ask the question, I guess I'm asking the question not very well, is are we investing in tobacco or arms or anything like that that we would not want to be investing in? I mean, if we're making money from people dying of tobacco-related cancer in parts of the world, do we think that's okay? As long as we're making a good bit of interest, do we have any choice over that?
The clerk has put in the annual investment strategy that all funds are in instant access savings accounts. Instant access accounts, I think the phrase is used. So there's no investments here at all, it's all cash.
But we're earning interest on that. How does that interest come about? Do we, because they must, you know, a bank invests the money that we put in there in some other places. Do we have any control over where they put those bits of money?
Yeah, also.
It's a year since I last looked at this. My apologies if I can't remember the specifics. This is a particular fund that's been created for local government and local councils. My expectation is that it would be ethical, otherwise no councils would use it.
Well, could we ask the question? Can we find out more information? I'm not saying you're going to agree this now, I'm just saying, can we find out more information about this? Where does the money go to?
Steve is writing that down for you.
Okay, thank you.
James?
Yeah, just to sort of build on that point, because now the charity I'm involved with, the trustees were absolutely clear we had to have an ethical investment policy. And so the word ethical would be nice to see in some of this paperwork, whilst accepting the reality that it's the bank that's looking after the cash for us.
Next. Okay, so let me go back up. So, Robin, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Sorry, go
That's
for it.
all right. Are we content then to use the word we agreed as interim, the policy then, why we receive, Harvard suggested a further report to review this stuff. So this would be an interim position, which would change if we found something which members felt was what Jane was saying, ethical, was it Jane? Ethical policy, and just to make sure that we do check that, because it's something I think notice all members are being questioned about such things at the moment. That's probably why it's a topic. So we're not all immune from that conversation, but I respect the point of agreeing it at this point with the wording on agreement is be reviewed against principles of ethical investment at a time in the future. So I can't define, that will take some time to gather that information. And I don't think we should put a particular time span on it, but the fact that we recognise it shows a sense of sensitivity to those difficulties.
This is consistent with the previous year and the year before when I was doing my research that we have, as far as I can tell, the public sector deposit fund we've had for many years. It's been voted through last year. I could do some research. My recollection from last year, which is limited because it's a while ago since I did it, was that the primary function of it is because if we hold it in a bank account elsewhere, we're not protected by the protection if a bank were to fold. So the public sector deposit fund was set up for councils and public bodies to use.
Makes sense. Claire?
Since we are looking at this on an annual basis, in any case, I would suggest that next year when this comes back, that we get a little bit of an extra note on the ethical investment principles of that public deposit fund.
Yeah.
Would that be an appropriate thing to do?
Yeah.
It's not going to stop Steve looking into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but it's, then we don't need to make an interim decision now and revisit it, but we can make a decision now because we're revisiting it, or we're looking at this again next year anyway.
Okay.
You're being into
John.
the draw. That's from an exactly the same.
I apologise.
No.
We can, I mean, obviously, if we agree this now, we're agreeing it for at least 6 months, because we can only return to it if we want to.
Yeah.
In 6 months' time. By then, we'll have more information. And I think, given the cycle of these things, then maybe next year we decide to really kind of take a good hard look at this with the information that Steve's about to get for us. And that might take a bit of digging. We appreciate that, and then we'll have it straight away. So I think we should leave it as it is, Robin, and if we want to return to it, then we can return to it in 6 months' time, like any decision that we make.
Yeah.
Or sooner, if 6 councils want to sign a motion,
Yeah.
we have that facility.
This is a recommendation to full council, so if full council vote through on the 12th, then they would have to make the next call on it.
Cool.
Fran, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to say that it's not something to take a swift decision on. It is something that would need a lot of extra work done on to investigate. So I think that as previously been said, we agree to this now with the view to investigate in the future.
Jane and then Robin.
Thank you. So if this was another charity I might be involved in, I'd be suggesting that Buckingham, the first line, Buckingham Town Council acknowledges the importance of prudently and ethically investing the temporary surplus funds. Just having the word ethically in the first line would give us that sort of reassurance that that's what our principle is. I'm happy, if that's all too difficult for this system around this table, I'm happy to know that Steve is going away to sort it out. But I just think using the word ethically, it needs to be in there sooner rather than later.
I would second that.
Okay, so I've got Robin next, and then
Was there other people wanted to speak? Anthony wanted to speak, I'll wait.
yeah, Anthony and then Zoe wanted to speak as well.
I take Steve's point about the protections, within that. And secondly, there is a certain sort of tangle when we start talking about ethical. I mean, let me give you a simple example. If it's for arms, then that's an easy one. Would this include oil and gas and that sort of thing? A purist would say, yes, we've got to look at, the world and making it net zero and all the rest of it. It cuts so many different ways that we could all spend a long time discussing our version of ethical.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I personally would say I suspect a lot of that was considered when this fund was actually set up. It was deemed accessible. It was appropriate for local authorities. But if we want to go down that route, we're going to have to dig quite deeply. Well, you are, I'm not.
And if I take councillors, so did you want to say
I just wanted to say very quickly whilst people were talking, I had a little look online and there is a whole fact sheet. I've just sent the information to Steve. Where it breaks, there's a whole fact sheet and everything about how they invest, what they invest in. There's a guide, there's everything. So actually all the information's there, it just needs a moment to digest. And I've literally just forwarded it to Steve. So that the information's there to be seen about these specific deposit accounts, public sector deposit accounts.
I had actually, so thank you for doing that. I had actually got it on my screen, and most of it is invested with HM Treasuries, the biggest portion.
Yeah.
And other international banks and building societies. So how far do you go down the line?
Yeah, that's what you were saying.
And it's all publicly there to be seen, previous years' reports, who they invested how much.
I have a colleague who
Do you want the funnel, Fran?
Yes, I think so.
We have the funnel, please. Thank you.
Bear in
That's not the fountain.
You wish you had shorts on there, don't you?
Thank you.
We don't want 20.
Come down several shades.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, Anthony.
Okay, so we had Andy and then Robin.
I agree with what we are trying to achieve here, but the sums involved are pocket change to banks. And how they're going to find out which bit of our money is going to be in a fund that's going to be ethical. It's got to be live in a real world. And we sometimes get carried away with the amount they're talking about.
The fact sheet just referred to a sustainable approach to their investments and policies. So that might help reassure members.
Yeah. Robin and John, and then I really do need to go to the vote.
I listened to the points, Anthony made and Mayor made about the change, because I think as long as we, in agreeing this policy, include at the end of it, when we review this, we review it with the, we agree it now, but principle, using the words, we would review it as an ethical, as an addendum. The information that you cite may change that at council, because we'll have that before us. So we'll all look at that, and that may take some of the concerns, or may even raise different concerns. We won't know till we see it, but I've got the feeling that can be included in the report to council, which seems, it could be that we can do it all at once, because that information answers all the questions first raised by John. So I think that might seem logical. Does that seem?
You're suggesting that what they're looking at online goes on the full council agenda for members to read.
With the note that about the ethical things covers the.
I'll be happy to support that.
It may help if I quote from it. It says, we believe that the common role of sustainable investment is to provide positive change. It is best achieved by pushing companies to do more to address the major challenges facing us today. This fund is managed in line with our sustainability approach for cash funds. But it can get much clearer to that. And to be probably honest, I'm not sure that there are really any options that then risk the deposit if something goes bust.
Okay, John, I was then going to vote. Yeah.
Well, Jane proposed a few minutes ago that in the first line of the introduction, we should say it was prudently and ethically investing in exemplary service funds. I second that proposal. Can we vote on that proposal to amend just that first line? And then go, personally, I think we should vote on the substantive recommendations, and then await the information going back to full council, whatever can be done.
Okay, I'm going to go to the vote.
I'm just going to ask a question. The reason I said add it to the bottom was not because we're making a recommendation to council. Council would be able to decide that based on all the information, and then at that point.
John's comment wasn't about your.
No, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah, I don't think it needed another explanation, but thank you, Robin. But yeah, I was happy to second your recommendation, but we'll go with so Jane, can you read out what you're suggesting, so that it can be minuted properly, please?
Thank you very much. So simply in the first line of the introduction, Buckingham Town Council acknowledges the importance of prudently and ethically investing the temporarily surplus funds held on behalf of the community. So it's and ethically.
Okay, and that was seconded by John. So can we have hands up to agree to that, please? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those against? 2, and abstentions? 1. Okay, so that's carried. And before we move on to the main recommend, sorry.
Just
Okay. So Robin's recommendation that I seconded is to include information for council. So can we have a vote on that, please, to agree that the information that is being looked at online, that we get that with the full council agenda, so we can all read it before we get a second bite, shall we? So those two agree with that, please show.
Yeah.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so now we go with recommendations. So 1.1, that we review and agree the revised investment strategy policy recommended to full council. So can we vote on that one, please? Those who agree?
Do we need a proposer and a seconder?
We probably do.
Oh, yeah. Who would like to propose that?
I'll propose it.
Thank you. Seconding?
Yeah. Oh, John had his hand up.
John? Right.
I'm easy, yeah, go on, yeah.
So those who agree to that, please show. That's unanimous, thank you. And then a recommendation for 1.2 that members agree the annual investment strategy for the financial year 2025-26 and recommend it to full council. So can we have a proposal for that, please? Proposal, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
John, sorry, a seconder, Claire?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Those in agreement, Michelle? That is unanimous, thank you very much. Thank you for your hard work, Steve, and can you minute our thanks to Claire as well, please? Thank you. So again, a big body of work has gone into that.
You want to the 12th of April meeting? No. Body of work.
Okay, right, so item 11, we've got a preventing sexual harassment risk assessment and action plan. We've got a report from Steve. And then we'll go with the risk assessment and action plan as we can just scroll down to those. So report first, Steve.
So as you can see, the law has changed. We have to undertake, employers have to take additional steps now to do everything that's reasonable to avoid the situation arising. Our HR partner Work Nest have provided us with a template which has taken some time to work through. The template is the one that they've recommended. The hazards and actions are the ones that they have recommended, and anywhere there's a gap, members will see that I've added to the action plan. So really it's as straightforward as that. I've given another taking that I will report on the progress of the action plan at the appropriate time.
Anything, members? Martin?
Yeah, we're now on appendix G, are we? Can we?
We can scroll down from the report to
Yeah.
item G and H.
Yeah, so on the first page of that report, 32 of 62, the assessment of the risks will be carried out for each of our business locations. But that's the one to end of the third paragraph. But I can only see one assessment, which is for the whole council. That's one of my first points, but you can answer that one now.
Yeah, it's very much a report for the whole business, this one. So when I've done the assessment of each of the different places, I've done it as one report, otherwise we could have 6 different ones.
Yes.
Workness have said they're happy with me doing it that way.
So we can
that's
take that
why-
line out of the statement then, can we?
That is their template. I will seek their advice if members are happy for me to do that, as to whether we should take that out. My reading of it is that we do an assessment on each place, but it doesn't mean I need to do an actual individual risk assessment for each one. Does that make sense? So I have reviewed every place that we operate, but done one report because, to be honest, everything's identical across the board.
I may agree with you with that, but it doesn't say so when I read it, and I then may draw conclusions as to, where are the other assessments? So either take it out, amend it like you've put in Buckingham Town Council, like you've put in other things in the assessment that haven't been included. But it's not a true statement of what's happening, even if it's the template. And a template is just a straw point to start with. So
well, the assessment of risk
I'll leave it with
has
you.
been carried out for each of the business locations, but overall there was just one risk assessment.
Okay, all right then. Yeah, you could read it that way.
That was my interpretation. I hope members support that.
Well, I suppose also then on the template, on the next page, it talks about e.g. waiting staff, sales staff, bar staff. We don't have any EGs of those. So, the template needs to be tweaked to fit out. That's in the first bullet point. on 33 of 62.
This is a generic template that we've been advised to use. I've been advised not to make any changes to it, but if members wish to raise them, then I can seek clarification between now and the 12th of May.
Well, I mean, it is only EG, but it doesn't sort of fit with our people. That was what I was going to say. Yeah. So what you're saying is on the risk assessment itself, these considerations have been put in on their template.
Yeah, yes, on page 34, where it lists the work, it says work location, it just lists all of our places. So I have assessed all of our different.
Yeah, no, the considerations are there, wording and lines. Do any of your employees, stroke workers, work alone with a third party? They're all theirs, and you've either included it or excluded, i.e. yes or no.
So I have looked to see, do we or don't we? Yes, that's right. All the questions we've been advised that we need to ask those specific questions, and of course things may change. We might get some younger members of staff. We might get someone who is expecting or whatever, another risk assessment is done. So we'll continue reviewing it.
Yeah. So thinking of our staff again, and being a little bit controversial. Yeah, not me. And I've just scrolled past it too quickly. Under training note. Policy. Oh yeah, here we are. Under vulnerable employees and workers, it's basically 37 of 62. Our staffing makeup, I believe, is mainly women. But there's no heading here for sexual harassment against men, which are the minority in our staffing makeup.
It's probably close to a half split if you include the green spaces.
Green spaces.
However, every risk assessment I've done is considered from both sides.
But you can't do, because there's no heading for men. Because it just says women, LGBT, young workers, disabilities, black and minority, low paid, all sorts of things there. Just trying to put the other side there.
Yeah, well, it's a fair point. I really don't have an answer other than
we can include it.
This is the this really has sort of gone through every particular line. When I've done my assessment, I accept what you're saying. When I've done my assessment, I've considered it both sides. How would members like to address it?
Well, I take Robin, and then John, and then Jane, and then Fran, and then the mayor.
I read this report, Chair. This report reflects many other reports I've seen in other local authorities which assess risk. It's also very good that the officers have scored the risk appropriately in the report, which means that they've considered those outcomes and those whatever. Normally, you would review a report on a regular basis if it was necessary to review it. The wording of the report is sexual harassment, and sexual harassment can be both. So, and so in many expense, the wording it reflects other wordings in other reports I've seen. When you start to rewrite the emphasis of that, you remove the importance of the prognosis of why the report was written. So I'm happy to accept the report in its entirety, because the officers have actually scored everything and done a thorough job of notifying the risk. And we don't write reports, we monitor report and discuss them. Now, if we want to change the format of the report, we couldn't really agree this report. So I would propose that we would agree the report as it is and take on board the comments made in any future report that we consider, bring it forward in those future reports. If it's legally and common based, because we can't have a report in this local authority that doesn't actually show in other local authorities differently to other local authorities. We can't make the candour of how it looks, because it looks very similar to I've seen in the Fire Authority, I've seen in Buckinghamshire Council, I've seen similar reports in health boards, and they all reflect this stature of the way we do it. So we shouldn't really step outside that, but I'm happy to propose we agree it as it is, because I'm happy that the officers have reviewed all the risks. And that's really where we are. If I'm on the minority, very happy to be on the minority.
John?
Yeah, it's a big policy. I mean, I scanned through it earlier on, and I didn't scan through it enough. I think I'm with Robin in the sense that for the time being, given everything else we've got to take on with it, I think ultimately it's a superb job at first stab. I think there are some question marks on some of it. Like, for example, one of the questions which you've answered no is, do staff work at night? Well, yes,
They do.
some staff do work at night, not in the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock at night at the end of the music festival. So that needs looking at.
I'm sorry, apologies for interrupting, but I took advice on this, and their reference is 12 at midnight to
After
6
midnight.
AM.
Okay, all right. Well, it should, it's, if we're going to have something as detailed as this, put in at least a footnote, something like that. And also about, as I can't find it now, are there any power differentials? You tick no in that one. And well, of course, there are in any organisation power differentials. There are people who are in managerial roles and everything else. And the big difference in our organisation is we're not staff, but I'm sure we could probably find at least one town council country where some town councillor has maybe used their influence, shall we say, to maybe harass a younger or an older, whatever, member of staff. So there are huge power differences in both the staff team and between the member, us as members, and the staff. I mean, some of the most difficult times we've had in this town council have been when town councils have abused their position and tried to exert influence and power when they shouldn't have. I know we're covered by a code of conduct and everything else, which should cover hopefully most of this, but I don't know. Without going through this line by line by line, which I don't think we're going to do tonight, I guess I'm with Robin. Let's agree, but let's have another really good at some point in the future.
Jane?
Yeah, I love the fact that after page after page after page, and thank goodness it's a wonderful document, then says other specific areas, and there was nothing. I feel.
I'd run out of things to say.
It's a fantastic job. The only thing, again, from slight experience of seeing these things, is there's another column missing, which is once you've done your level of risk, low, medium and high, put in your preventative action, then you need the second risk column, which says, what mitigation would actually have, what mitigation will achieve. And then I think there's some sort of little bit of arithmetic that goes on, which I don't understand. But anyway, you look at the high risk.
The Boston box.
Thank you. You do something about it, the preventative action, and then the next thing it wishes to reassure us says the risk is now medium or low. So there's just one, but don't cry yourself to sleep over it. It's a fantastic document, but you do need, as you develop it, to add in what's the outcome risk.
Right.
So I've witnessed men being sexually abused by women in the workplace, and it's not pleasant. But it was an older woman and a younger male, which I think is covered by the young workers thing. Now, young workers doesn't necessarily just mean under 18s. or under sixteens, sorry?
Clarification again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Somebody who is younger is.
They prompt it's 2000 hours.
is there are these other vulnerabilities listed, and while women, it's more prevalent overall for women to be victims of sexual abuse in the workplace than it is for men. When men have got another vulnerability, that exposes, that increases the risk. So I think the fact that it says vulnerable employees and workers at the top of that section, which is kind of missed off because that's at the end of page 36 out of 62, rather than being at the top of 37 out of 62, as a heading, I think it covers it. However, I would want young workers to be looked at, because and again with the power imbalances in the workplace. I think there's I think those are two areas that do need further looking at.
I was going to raise the point as well of that line or the heading on the right at the bottom of page 36, that everything on the next page is the groups of people who are considered, and I think in law or in general practice, to have particular vulnerabilities because they are that category. And I think under those circumstances, yes, of course, cis instead of or people who are not LGBT, for example, can be, of course, at risk, but not because they're not LGBT, but because of they're falling into another category. And of course, somebody who is not in a particular risk group can still be subjected to abuse. But the risk assessment is to look at those people who evidence shows are at particular risk. So I think in that respect, it's absolutely fine. The one thing that I would mention, however, is the bit with the power imbalances. I think you need to look at that. And the young workers, of course, you know, I think there might be some relatively young ones in the green spaces team. So, and that is also the thing that, of course, this assessment will change on a regular basis because the composition of staff will change on a regular basis. So just because we say this is now, we're not saying for all eventuality, or you're not saying, because it's not us who are making this assessment. This is, you know, office making this assessment.
And of course, as we work through the action plan and take appropriate action there, that will uptake in itself. And it's up for annual review anyway. Annual as minimum, it doesn't have to be a year.
So on that basis, may I abuse the fact that I'm just talking and propose that we accept that we note the report and accept the recommendation of recommended to full council. I think that is what we're supposed to do. Basically, that we accept the 3 recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do you vote?
Oh, you did already.
No, I'd like to do an amendment.
Sorry.
I'd like to do an amendment
Okay, go for it.
that we do accept it, but we review it 3 months, 6 months. What do we reckon? I'm open for offers. Just so that, you know, we got something that said we will do it sooner than later. 6 months.
We have to accept.
And we're not asking the office to do any more work. It's for us then to really look into it.
Yeah. Right, I'm happy to second that. Fran?
Does it not have to go to full council anyway?
Yeah. For them to
in which
recommend.
case that can be reviewed then at full council.
Okay, we
rather than
can.
having to do another piece of work on it again.
Let the full council do it for 6 months,
Yeah, okay. I'll propose it there then.
You're off.
No, I'll propose it at full council.
Full council.
Okay, so
Watch this
I
space.
suppose, in agreement, this goes to full council, please show. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you again, Steve, for doing all that work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feedback.
Chair, can I just make one tiny point? Somewhere on one of these boxes, it says that there's going to be a range of options. Not a range. Tell it, I've got it down.
I was anticipating Martin's feedback.
Yeah, and you're gonna be the new Margaret. Margaret, you love raising those.
It's always very helpful to have.
I wonder if I can be indulged and ask just a point of interest really, on clarification. When Martin said about we don't have bar staff and various other people, I immediately thought, well, we sometimes might hire in somebody for some situation, which led to the point I want to raise in saying, if we take a contractor's staff in for an evening work, does this cover them automatically, or is it covered by contractor?
This is our risk assessment for anybody that we're dealing with.
That's right. I just wanted to be clear. So that would help with the limitation. It could be any sort of staff at that moment. Great. Thank you very much.
Fran, did you want to?
I was just going to say that I think that it does actually state that in here somewhere, about contractors, etc.
Under the premise of the purpose.
Yeah, just agency workers and casual workers
Does cover.
is in there, but it's marked as no.
Oh.
What page is that on?
That's 3862.
Right, let's do find that down. Thank you. Okay, actions for our staff handbook. So we've got another report from Steve and work best amendments. So if we take the report and also appendix I together, that'd be useful. John.
One item that I don't understand is sickness absence, removal of quote high risk sport from additional detail covered under contractual sick pay. What's the implication of that? Oh, sorry, page 56, 3.4.
Okay, can you say that one again so I can quite hear you?
Page 56,
Yeah.
3.4, sickness absence, second bullet point, removal of high risk sport, etc. What does that mean? Because without seeing the document itself, that bullet point makes no sense.
There was a suggestion that if a member of staff took part in a high-risk sport, for example, skiing, you can call it a high-risk sport, that if they were then off sick, they would not be entitled to sick pay. And it was considered that that would not be appropriate.
Okay.
And therefore should not find its way into the draft handbook.
Good.
Devil's advocate, are you sure that's covered under the Human Rights Act? Because what you're actually saying is you're making decisions.
We're not putting it in there.
We're not putting it there.
We're not going to move.
We're removing that.
Yeah.
So it will mean that they'll have the same rights as everyone
Yeah,
else.
absolutely.
That's
So
fine.
they can
That's
do
okay, because quite frankly, it seems proportionate.
No.
Yeah, saying to staff what they can and can't do in their
That's
private
why I
life.
took that.
Thank you.
exclusion out.
Yeah, well, I'm not going skydiving. Just make a big dent.
It's the removal of that
Yeah,
statement.
removal, yeah.
Take it out.
Take it out.
Wow.
Because then you have
And that
to
is
start.
quite right too, that it shouldn't be in there, because next thing is, okay, if you're not eating a proper diet,
Yeah.
will you not get sick leave? If you're spending too much time
Correct.
sitting, are you not
Yeah.
getting, I mean, we could have 115,000 conditions
Yeah.
that could all lead to the removal of sickness benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this would be, yes, start of a very, very slippery slope, even if it was a super draconian in its own right already.
Yeah. Martin.
Not that we're going to change it, but just my facial expressions. When I take out my holiday insurance, it lists a whole load of sports I cannot do. Otherwise, I've got to pay a higher payment for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
you know.
sickness pay, but it's a sickness pay, not insurance.
Well, yeah, but, you know,
Yeah,
it's my choice.
yeah, can we go back to the actual, yeah, we're going back to the, let's stick to the handbook review if we can. So, what members' thoughts, are we happy with the report and what's the recommendation, get back? Mayor,
No, Robin has.
Robin, and Mayor.
Might be because it's in my mind at the moment. Are we sufficiently, Steve, in line with good practice on the, not that I'm just family members, not myself, to be clear, maternity leave, that we are well covered on that.
All the amendments that have been made are in line with the new or updated.
I guess because it's very important that
Yeah.
on family life, and to celebrate anyone.
Yeah, and there's neonatal in here now, which we've not had before.
Yeah.
Sick leave. So
Thank you.
If we pass the handbook as it is, then it will meet all the
Thank you,
criteria.
thank you so much.
In that case, I would propose that we accept the recommendations.
I second it.
Thank you, so there's an agreement, please show. Yeah, unanimous again, thank you very much. And thank you again, Steve, for your hard work. You're very busy.
You already know.
He knows he's been busy.
I suspect it's why Claire's gone on holiday, so that because she knows that I've got everything on the agenda.
Right, item 13, financial regs. So we have another report from Steve and to review and agree the recommendation that they go to full council. So members, thoughts on them?
Shall I just add, last year, now commissioned and wrote a new set of financial regulations. They arrived far too late for us to consider them last year, with a few omissions in there, as I found when they were first done, which have now been corrected. Hence they're being brought forward today. So this is basically the new set of financial regulations that are the model that is recommended by NAC and others that we accept. There is a comment that they made when providing them, which I've mentioned in 2.3, which is for each council to determine its own limits that help rather than hinder its operations. And I have made some reference to that later on when I've made some recommendations for changes to authorisation limits. And I hope that's you may give some examples of where urgent operational business of the council has been delayed because of the limits that are currently in place. I can give additional examples.
Yeah.
For example, the TC&E had a budget for their planters. It was their budget, but their limit wasn't high enough to be able to agree it. Whereas this would correct something like that.
Members' thoughts, Fran and Robin.
I was going to propose that we accept the recommendations.
Yes, absolutely. That's
I
right.
think they
The mayor said it.
make absolute sense.
All right, Robin and Howard.
Not to contradict that, just to seek assurance. We took a decision, an interim decision, didn't we, on the cemetery project to agree terms of financial, that needed to be decisions taken.
Yeah.
So we allowed a higher authority for that spend. I'm not sure whether the figures are identical in this. Is this a change proposal? Because I like the bit that ditto the relevant chair, whether we should put chair stroke mayor in there, only just because people do have a life and sometimes people aren't available. And we elect a mayor to whatever, just so that if there's a decision to be made, it can be made. And the figures don't look different. And just the other question was, that was an interim decision. for the cemetery works.
But that still stands.
That still stands. That's not here, but it's already agreed.
That's already agreed, that still stands
Yeah.
for that particular project. In the first instance on here, I would say about reference to the mayor and the chair's absent, standard practice will be to go to the vice chair.
Yeah.
Playing that in here, that will be the standard practice anyway.
Should through the chair, then we put that in just so that it's no, when we agree it and it goes on, there's not, we don't repeat the same conversation.
Would be clear what page that you're on.
We're on table
59 and
two,
62.
table two, and where it says ditto declaration.
515.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
It's just that I just thought we want to make it clear that the council can actually get on and do things rather than wait. Because it's difficult for officers to wait if somebody happens to be on leave or unwell or something.
Cameron's thoughts?
I don't see an issue with that.
No. I don't.
So
If it clarifies
recommend that. Do you want to propose that?
Yeah, I propose that we add the words as you suggested to, which is to add vice chair.
In the absence of the
Chair, the vice
full
chair.
vice chair, in the absence of the chair, I shall add to that.
Yeah, and that makes sure that the council carry on with its business. Yes, so
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll vote on that first and then we'll vote on these going to full council. So those in agreement of the, oh, sorry, Howard, you did have your hand up, my bad.
Just on 6.1, this is the council has resolved to bank Lloyds Bank. In view of the conversation earlier on regarding the mayor's charity, do you want to make that a little bit more flexible? Because financial arrangement says you can't bank with anyone else but Lloyds Bank.
Well,
It does say that currently, and the
Yeah.
number B that was chosen as the option doesn't change our
Well, you said
banking. If we needed to change our banking, it would have to go to a resolution of full council in the future anyway. I would suggest that members not
financial
minded
arrangement will
to.
still be in place.
Yes, so what would happen is members would have to vote to change that particular financial regulation. I'd be minded not to change it until that point arises, but members may have a different view. Because it was not, thank you.
right, so,
will we?
huh?
Whether beyond the amendment, I suppose, will we?
Yeah, we were. All right, so hands up that we agree the amendment that have been proposed and seconded by the mayor. That is unanimous, thank you. And then to agree the recommendation that these go to full council.
Proposed and seconded.
Yeah.
Proposer,
I
The mayor-
proposed it.
thank you, seconded by.
The mayor just thought it done.
Okay. Sorry. Waving, so.
I'm not precious on this one.
Thank you.
And thank you again for another chunk of work. Item 14, access to work grant. This is brilliant, actually. So I hope that you've all read the report and we'll go with the appendix J all together so that we discuss them both. So John, hand up first.
I would have been more comfortable had this been in the confidential section of the meeting. Because I just think this is discussing stuff about a person that should not be in the public domain. Personally, it's too late now, but I'd say for future reference, stuff like this, I think would go in the confidential matters.
If I could add, I did have that discussion with the appropriate member of staff and they felt it was appropriate that it was open to what was happening. That we were taking this money and for what reason.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Fran and Howard.
I propose that we accept the recommendations and thank the compliance and projects manager for the work they've done on it, and I really hope that the member of staff will be aided massively in their work on doing this, and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'd like to second it.
I understand the net cost to the council, but it's not right for you. But what advantages there will be to the committee clerk?
If that might be able to answer that better than I can.
So there will be, now, all of this stuff is high-tech stuff that I don't know a great deal about. I had an assessment in here, online, and, so there'll be microphones. So when you speak, it will go into my hearing aids. There will be also a transcript on the bottom of my screen from that, and some, additional fancy equipment that will also play things back for me, just will make things a whole lot easier.
Members may be aware that the sound quality isn't always as excellent as it might be on the recording, and of course in confidential there is no recording, so it's always helpful to have. Have those aids.
No issue with that?
Yeah, I did Google some of these things and yeah, it looks really
It
positive.
does look really good.
Yeah.
There are, as part of this as well, the guy who did the assessment insisted that there is training. So I was going to ask Councillor Tribe, if he'd maybe come along to that as well, because he's very technically minded. And so there will be training for that as well, so. Excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you. Harold, did you have your hand up?
You just spoke.
I'm just very pleased that we're doing something to improve our work process for our employers. I think it's really good. I think it's positive. I can think of instances I've known in my life where it's been so good. So I think I've known members who I don't historically personally experienced nothing quite like this, and I think it's encouraging that the council do the right thing.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been proposed and who seconded it? Fran, you proposed it?
I proposed it.
Yeah, right, John's waving. Oh no, sorry, I did, but I don't mind.
I don't mind, honestly, I don't mind.
Yeah. Right,
Unanimous decision.
right, so everybody, hands up who agree this work, well, no, unanimous.
Have we voted on both?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
It looks like we have to pay in advance and reclaim it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Right. Let me go back up the top. Right, so yeah, date next meeting, 23rd June. So thank you again, Robin, you weren't here, but I thanked members for this is the last of this council's resources committee. So I just wanted to thank everybody again for their diligent and hard work, and also to the officers. So thank you again. Right, now are we happy to go into private session?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have hands up for that, please.